Please turn to page 7 of the Kurukulla Center prayer book. We'll start with Refuge and Bodhicitta on page 7 and follow the order of the regular Sunday morning prayers. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. In the Buddha's Dharma and Sangha, until enlightened I seek refuge, through merit from giving and the rest. To aid all may I become Buddha. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be parted from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who were devoted to the moral precepts, to you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. From Tushita's hundreds of God's protector's heart, to tip of this fresh, pure, white heap, curd like cloud. O Lo Sang Drakpa, Dharma's omniscient king, pray come to this place with your disciples. In space ahead, on lion throne, lotus and moon, venerable Guru, smile brightly with delight. Pray stay hundreds of eons to spread doctrine as supreme merit field for my mind of faith. Your wisdom mind sees full range of knowables. Your eloquent speech adorns fortunate ears. Your beauteous body, fame, glory outstanding. Homage to you, worthwhile to think of, hear and see. Pleasant offerings of water, various flowers, fragrant incense, light perfume, and so on. Oceans of offerings set out and envisioned, offered up to you, supreme field of merit, non-virtue committed with body, speech, and mind, which I have heaped up since beginningless time, especially what has contradicted 3 vows. Each I confess from my heart with strong regret. In time of strife you strove to learn and practice, shunned 8 mundane concerns, made life essence full. O protector from depths of our hearts, we rejoice in your powerful great deeds. Venerable Gurus, from love and wisdom, clouds densely massed in your Dharmakaya sky, pray loose a rain of vast profound Dharma on fields of disciples just as needed. May whatever virtue that I've here gathered bring benefit to all beings and doctrine, and may it make Venerable O Sangdrakpa's essential teaching specially shine forever. Nigmate se wei ter chen chen resing, Dreame ken pei wang po jam pel yang, Du pung malu jom ze sang wei dag, Gang chen ke pe tsu gen song kappa, Lo sang drag pe jabla so adeb. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus on my crown, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments of body, speech, and mind. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness. Bestow attainments common and supreme. O glorious and precious root Guru, pray take seat of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness, until supreme awakening remain steadfast. Homage to the exalted three jewels. Thus have I heard at one time. The Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgriha on Vulture Mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that very time, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, perfectly looking at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a child of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to the Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this, subsequently looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are empty without characteristics. That is, they are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement and no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visible form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no object of touch, no mental phenomenon. There is no I element and so forth up to no mind element, up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no cessation of ignorance and so forth up to no aging and death and no cessation of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, and no path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom. And because their minds have no obstructions, they have no fear. Passing a little beyond error, they attain the final state beyond sorrow. All the Buddhas who reside in the three times, by relying upon the perfection of wisdom, become manifest and complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it is not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tayata, gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva, a great being, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, well said, O child of the lineage, so it is. The profound perfection of wisdom shall be practiced exactly as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the superior Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire assembly, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas, and others, were filled with admiration and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. In the holy supreme abode of the Dakinis, possessed of clairvoyance and miraculous power, unwaveringly caring for practitioners as your children, homage to the host of the three places Dakinis, Akasamaratsa Shadarasamrayafe. Akasamaratsa Shadarasamrayafe. Tayata, Om, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisoha. Through the power of truth of the exalted three jewels speech, may all on the side of negativity, such as the four Maras, be stopped. May they become non-existent. May they be pacified. All enemies, obstructors, and hindrances, Shanti Kuriye Soha. The 80,000 types of obstructors pacified, freed from adverse, harmful conditions, may all be conducive and perfect auspiciousness, bring happiness and well-being here, right now. Saji Perki Chukshim Meitog Traham Ri Rabling Ji Yi Sun Mama Dam Park Nam Ki Chur Koi Kala Kien Se Trindrigne Jitar Sampe Du Jade Zinma Lahaza Gechurgi Char Pawab Tu Soul Hidam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami Sangye Churdak Soki Chognam La Jangcho Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chunyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparshu Sangye Churdak Soki Chognam La Jangcho Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Chunyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparshu Sangye Churdang Soki Chognam La Jangcho Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagi Churnyan Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Penchir Sangye Druparshu.
Next up, Mars. Okay, so let's just do a few minutes meditation on the breath. So just sit in your best meditation posture. If you're in a chair, keep your feet on the floor, on a cushion, that's good. Main thing is to keep your back straight. And then your neck is just slightly bent forward. Then bring your mind inside, away from external objects of distraction. And once inside, keep it away from internal distractions, mainly the discursive, chattering mind. And find your breath, where it goes out and comes in through your nostrils. And generate a strong determination. Now I'm going to meditate on my breath without allowing myself to become distracted by anything whatsoever. So with that strong determination, just focus on your breath and keep your mind on it as long as you can. The moment you notice that your mind has gone off your breath, distracted by something or other, drop the distraction and just come straight back to your breath. Otherwise, just develop this meditation on the breath a little bit, doing what we did last week, the 9-round breathing meditation. So you breathe in through your left nostril, breathe out through your right 3 times, then breathe in through your right, out through your left 3 times, and then in through both together and out through both together 3 times. So this is mainly a visualization, to visualize breath going like that, but to make it easy, you can block the opposite nostril, so when you're breathing in, look at this, so you occlude your right nostril. Breathe out. So in through your left, out through your right, like that. So 3 times. Then the other way, in through your right, out through your left, in 3 times, and then in through both together and out through both together. So just do 2 or 3 rounds of 9 like that. Blocking your nostril or just visualizing. So now visualize that you're surrounded on all sides, above, below, all sides, stretching out infinitely, surrounded by the infinite, numberless, countless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And they're sending you their enlightened energy, wisdom and compassion in the form of radiant, blissful white light. So now when you breathe in through your left nostril, you're inhaling that enlightened energy in the form of radiant, blissful white light. And it fills your body and mind. So your body and mind become in the nature of radiant white light. And it stirs up all the negative karma, delusions, sufferings of body and mind. And you breathe those out through your right nostril in the form of dirty black smoke. And the smoke that comes out disappears, goes across to the horizon, disappears beyond the horizon, dissolves into nothingness, and no longer exists anywhere. So then the second time you breathe in through your left nostril, radiant white light comes and fills your body and mind and dislodges all your delusions, negative karma, suffering, problems, dissatisfaction, everything negative. You breathe that out in the form of thick black smoke, disappears across the horizon, dissolves, no longer exists anywhere. So 3 times like that, 3 times then breathe in the white light from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas through your right nostril, all the negativity out through your left 3 times. Then breathe in through both together 3 times. And out 3 times the black smoke. So just see if you can do that a couple of times. A couple of 9 rounds. generate motivation for being here this morning. We should really do this before we leave home, to come here. Think, the purpose of my life is to lead all sentient beings from suffering to enlightenment. In order to do this, first I have to reach enlightenment myself. That depends on studying, practicing and realizing the principal cause of enlightenment, the seed of enlightenment, Bodhicitta, the determination to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. Determination to reach enlightenment for the sole purpose of enlightening all sentient beings. So in order to achieve bodhicitta, necessary to study the teachings on bodhicitta. So that's why I'm here this morning. So these teachings come from Shakyamuni Buddha. There are two streams of the teaching, wisdom and method. So the Buddha passed the wisdom teachings to Manjushri, the Buddha of wisdom, and the method teachings, great compassion and bodhicitta, to Maitreya, the future Buddha, Maitreya. Manjushri passed the wisdom teachings to Nagarjuna. Maitreya passed the method teachings to Asanga. And then these Indian masters passed them down through a lineage of teachings, and they combined in the great Indian master Atisha, who brought them to Tibet, where they flourished, and also passed through an unbroken lineage of Tibetan teachers to His Holiness the Dalai Lama and to our teachers, Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Geshe Tsulga, Geshe Tenley. So these teachings we receive from our present-day teachers have an unbroken lineage, can be traced all the way back to the Buddha himself. So these are kind of living experience teachings that have passed down over these 2,600 years. So we're in the fortunate position of being able to receive this living lineage. So it's not just some dry theory, it's actually living experience teaching. So there's a chart in the back of Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand that shows a lot of the teachers in this lineage. You can look that up later. So just as a bird needs 2 wings to fly, so to reach enlightenment we need both the wings of the teaching, the wisdom wing and the method wing. It's called method. It really means compassion, bodhicitta, and in Tantra it's called great bliss. So wisdom is the wisdom realizing emptiness, ultimate reality. And the method is compassion, great compassion, bodhicitta. So right now we're focusing on the method part, bodhicitta. So if you look at, everyone likes to watch TV. So I've got this Lamrim outline. So, without going too much time at the beginning, we have we have these 3 scopes, what they call scopes. The lower scope, this green one, which is practiced by those who are simply practicing Dharma in order to avoid being reborn in the lower realms. Then this middle scope for those who want to attain liberation, complete freedom from beginningless samsara, cyclic existence, for themselves. And then the great scope here, this blue one, which is Mahayana teaching for those who wish to attain enlightenment in order to enlighten all sentient beings. So you see the main heading there, training mind in the great scope. And the first part, which Geshe taught before he went to India, this one, the teaching the bodhicitta, is the gateway to Mahayana, and then it has these 10 benefits. So that's been done. Then the next, second section here is the way to develop bodhicitta. So that has the actual stages in training for bodhicitta, and then developing bodhicitta through the ritual of taking vows. Some of you might have taken bodhisattva vows already. And then what to do after developing bodhicitta. Apparently there's nothing. Now sit back and relax. We're not there yet. So the vows, we're not going to do that right now. We're doing the actual stages for training. So training the mind by means of the sevenfold cause and effect instruction, that's what we're doing at the moment. And then comes, maybe next week, I don't know, training the mind through the interchange of self and others. So this one, training the mind by means of the sevenfold cause and effect instructions. So there's 2 parts. The developing equanimity, we did that a couple of weeks ago. Whatever. And then, so that's evening out the mind, seeing sentient beings are equal in wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. Sentient beings are equal in having been friend, enemy and stranger since beginningless time. So we did that. Then there's the actual Sevenfold training. So there are 6 causes and 1 effect. Here, understanding all sentient beings to be a mother, we did that. Remembering kindness, we did that. Repaying the kindness, we did that last week. So now we're down to the 4th cause, meditating on great love, great compassion, altruism or the extraordinary intention, and all those 6 causes lead to development of bodhicitta. So I suggest you read this book online. We gave the link in the, I think, in this week, and also on the Facebook page. And last time I mentioned how important this Lama Rinpoche was in our being in this centre, how inviting him to Boston in, I think, 99, on Lama Zopa Rinpoche's advice. He gave initiations and teachings, and that somehow removed the obstacles that we were having to finding a place for the centre. So we have a special connection with him. And he was one of the last living students. He passed away some years ago, but he was one of the last living students of Pabongka Rinpoche, direct students. And he received this teaching, liberation in the palm of your hand. I think he said when he was 7 or something like that. It was given in 1921, so could be right. And he didn't come out of Tibet in 59. He was in Chinese prison for a long time. He was there. It was just Pabongka Rinpoche's monastery was near. Lhasa is here, and Sera Monastery is there, and Pabongka Rinpoche's monastery was just a little bit away from Sera, not far from Lhasa. His monastery, he was from Sera Monastery, Sera May. So I'm just going to go back to this first cause, understanding all sentient beings to be your mother. He said this is actually the first step in developing bodhicitta. Pabongka Dorji Chung said this point is not easy and takes quite a long time to develop. However, it's crucial and indispensable because only on the basis of this recognition can you develop the following steps. We cannot progress without it, so it's very important to give it a lot of attention. In general, when you meditate, you use perfect reasoning as well as quotations. So, we talked about how there's 2 kinds of meditation, concentrative meditation, like focusing on the breath or some other object, just single-pointedly trying to keep our mind on that. And the other is analytical meditation, where we analyse what the teachings that we hear, we think about it. So, generally, there are three kinds of phenomena, overt phenomena, then slightly hidden phenomena, and very hidden phenomena. So the best way to know if something's true or not is through direct experience of that direct knowledge, you know. So, you know, we see, you know, this pillar exists because we can see it. I mean, all the things we see through our senses, they're relatively true because we can experience them directly. Then the hidden phenomena can't be experienced through senses. Like, has anybody been to Australia? Not yet. You think it's possible, but you haven't seen it. But you think it's possible to go there because you've seen it on maps. Anyway, there's ways of, don't have a direct experience of Australia, you poor people, but well, you don't want to go there right now. But so through logical deduction, we can understand certain things to exist, even though we haven't experienced them directly ourselves. Then the third kind of phenomenon, very difficult to experience, to see, like karma. We can't see it. We can't really logically determine, so we have to rely on experts. In Buddhism, it's called scriptural authority, which means, you know, it's taught by enlightened beings who do see everything that exists correctly. So when Rinpoche says, in general, when meditate, you use perfect reasoning as well as quotations. So we can't see directly that all sentient beings have been our mother, because we can't see through our senses previous lives. We may not even think they exist. But you know, just because something's not our experience doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Australia exists, trust me. In general, when you meditate, you use perfect reasoning as well as quotations. So the quotations we rely on have to come from a valid source. So it's also important. You know, we don't want to be believing fake news. So here, with this point of recognizing all beings as your mother, it's very important to use reasoning. Although you can develop the same understanding on the basis of quotations, there's a difference in the way the mind is activated on the basis of quotations and on the basis of reasoning. It's more powerful on the basis of reasoning. So if we figure out something for ourselves, we can be more convinced than, you know, somebody told us, even though that person is a reliable authority. Excuse me. The specific reasoning to be relied upon here is the beginningless continuity of the mind. First, you have to establish that the continuity of the mind is beginningless. So start by thinking that your mind of today is the result of the mind of yesterday. And yesterday's mind came from the mind of the day before yesterday. In that way, you go back day by day. This is a meditation we do too, to try and develop a feeling for this, an understanding. So, like Rinpoche says, you know, you look at your mind now, and then where did it come from? It came from yesterday's mind. It's just a direct continuity, and yesterday came from the day before. In that way, you go back day by day. Each day's mind is a result of the mind of the preceding day. Also, the mind of each moment is the result of the preceding moment. So mind doesn't come from, you know, this present mind moment doesn't come from nowhere. It doesn't come from our parents. It comes from the preceding mind moment. One mind moment leads to the next. It's just like this, like the flow of a river. We call it stream of consciousness. So each day's mind is a result of the mind of the preceding day. Also, the mind of each moment is the result of the preceding moment. By going back in this way, you discover that the mind is a continuity. Each moment is a result of the preceding moment. Continue to go back all the way to the moment of conception. Well, we probably can't remember that, but maybe just as well. But it's interesting to do this meditation. So first, you do a breathing meditation to try and settle your mind and make it calm and clear. And then go back and see how far back you can remember. My first memory was a very traumatic incident. It was at the age of about 3 years and 10 months. My mother brought my baby brother home. So it was the end of life as I knew it. That's the first thing I remember in my life. Can't go back beyond that. Continue to go back all the way to the moment of conception and to think about how the mind of a newborn baby is also a continuity which needs a preceding moment of mind in order to be generated. So most people, I think that the mind comes from the brain, don't they? I mean, regular people, if they think about such things. I think the mind comes from the brain. So the question is then, what was the first thought? Why did it arise? How did the first thought arise, if it's coming from the brain? Exactly when did that first thought arise from the brain? Presumably in the womb, Is the nervous system developed, or what stage of the nervous system developing, or the brain developing? What was the first thought? Is it the same? Is it the first thought the same for everybody? And what? Another one. Rhetorically, but go ahead. No, go. I'll give you a rhetorical answer. Mm-hmm. When's that? Why are we relying on your husband?
Sometimes when you think about something.
Yeah. Of course. So when would he say the first sensation arose? Yeah, when? At 3 months? At 6 months? And what would that first thought be? It's cold. It's dark in here. I'm suffocating. I can't breathe. Yeah. So it's kind of speculative. Okay. Anyway, bears thinking about, and there's the first thought, then what's the second thought? How does that first thought turn into the second thought? Why does it change? What causes it to change? What's the second thought? What's the third thought? And is that process the same for everybody? Is it different for everybody? Is it the same for some people and different from others? So we should meditate on our mind like this, on the continuity of mind. It's a meditation we do. if we do it properly, I think we'll see that there's no such thing as the first moment of mind. Each moment of mind now is directly dependent on the previous mind moment. There can't be a first. Another thing is, in terms of cause and effect, an effect has to be similar in nature to its principal cause. So since mind is a formless phenomenon, has no shape or colour, its principal cause should also be formless. So the brain is not formless. The brain is made of material matter, made of atoms and molecules and stuff. So if the brain is a principal cause of the mind should also be a physical thing. So you should be able to find it on autopsy. You can see the brain. Where's the mind in there? Not there. Mind's already gone if you're doing an autopsy, actually. Anyway, these are just things to think about. So the mind of the newborn baby is the continuation of the mind of the fetus, which was in the womb of the mother. And if you continue to go back in this way, you will not be able to find a beginning. So there's a footnote. The implication here is that the mind of the newly conceived child is the continuation of the mind of a previous life, which in turn came from another life, and so on without beginning. So in order for an embryo or a fetus or a child to be conceived, it needs three things. It needs sperm, the egg, and then needs consciousness to enter the products of conception. So the sperm and the egg come from parents. The consciousness comes from the previous life and has to join with those. So sometimes, a couple want to have a child and they can't conceive, and doctors don't find anything physically wrong. It can also be they don't have the karma to have a child. There's no consciousness drawn to that conjoined sperm and egg. So I don't know about many obstetricians, gynecologists talking about that aspect of it. So you better work on your karma. You cannot find a moment which you can point to as a beginning of the mind and say the mind began there. This is because any moment of mind would need a preceding moment in order to be generated. In this way you can establish that the continuum of the mind is beginningless. There is no single moment of mind which you can point to as being the first. So, see what your husband thinks about that. Following these reasons, you conclude that the number of times you've taken rebirth is countless. Not only that, but in all those rebirths, just as in this life, you needed a mother. For 100 rebirths, you would need 100 mothers. For 1,000 rebirths, you would need 1,000 mothers, and so forth. Since you have had countless rebirths, you've had countless mothers. So if you think very carefully about these points, you'll realize that not only have you had countless rebirths, you've also had countless mothers. You just said that. Furthermore, although sentient beings are also countless, the number of sentient beings that exists is fewer than the number of mothers you have had. you've taken rebirth countless times in all the different types of bodies, and the number of sentient beings you need to have been your mother is greater than the number of sentient beings in existence. Therefore, since the number of times you've taken rebirth and the number of mothers you have had is greater than the number of sentient beings, it means that every single sentient being has been your mother, not just once, but countless times. So start with your own mother, thinking that your mother of this life was your mother countless times in previous rebirths. When you've gained some experience of this idea, such that your mind is transformed towards your mother, then think about it in relation to your father, that your father has been your mother countless times. Following that, think about how your friends have been your mother countless times. Then think about your enemies, people you don't like. Even your enemies have been your mother so many times. Mitch McConnell's been my mother countless times. That's a scary thought. Not to mention others. Finally, widen your scope to include all sentient beings. Meditate on how all sentient beings have been your mother. You have to meditate on this subject again and again over a long period of time. While you are training your mind in this subject, you should rely on the different Lamrim scriptures, which explain various points and ways of meditating and can give you a lot of inspiration. You should request your spiritual teacher to give explanations to help clarify your mind. And you should also discuss the subject with your Dharma friends. By thinking in this way again and again, you'll reach the point where you realize that all beings have been your mother, even down to a tiny insect like an ant. A friend of mine, one of my friends came to a meditation course in Nepal in the early days, and he was a little outraged by it. I have to think of my mother as an ant? I said, actually, it's the other way around. Even when you see a tiny insect, you'll feel certain that many times this being has been your kind mother who took the greatest care of you and in whom you placed your trust. It is said that the great Atisha, who completely realized this point, would be immediately filled with a deep sense of respect whenever he met any sentient being. He would fold his hands and say, precious sentient being, so kind. So just in this point, there's really a lot. These teachings are making me thirsty. Okay, so the second cause. So we meditated on these. No, I'm good, thanks. Not that thirsty. We meditated on these last week. So we're doing it backwards. Actually, we're supposed to study the teachings, then meditate. But the next step, so the second one, remembering their kindness. The next step in meditation is recognizing the kindness of mother sentient beings. It is not enough just to recognize that all sentient beings have been your mother. You must also recognize the depth of their kindness. For example, your mother of this life was so kind, carrying you within her for 9 long months from the time of conception, always being very careful about what she ate and drank and doing everything with the sole thought of taking care of you. sure when it happened, but I think in the early days, like boomer days. Okay, boomer. Mothers smoked and drank. I'm not sure when it changed. 60s, 70s, 80s? Hmm? Yeah, because of fetal alcohol syndrome or various things that were kind of figured out. And do women still smoke in pregnancy? Not supposed to. I mean, maybe some do. Anyway, even the fact that you're alive and able to learn and practice Dharma is completely due to the kindness of your mother, who carried you in her womb and took such good care of you since the time of conception. She took good care of you while you were in her womb and also after you were born. When you were born, you were completely helpless, like a little bug, unable to do anything. Nevertheless, your mother treated you as if you're a priceless jewel, continuously taking the greatest care of you day and night. With no other thought in her mind than concern for your welfare, she fed you, bathed you, dressed you in soft clothing, took you here and there to make you happy, and even made funny faces or gestures to make you smile. Because of her constant feeling of love and concern for you, her mind was always full of worry that you might get sick or hurt, so much so that she would have difficulty sleeping at night. You learned how to walk because of the kindness of your mother. She would help you stand up and take your first step, then the second step, and so forth. You also learned how to pronounce your first words because of the kindness of your mother and also your father. As time went on, you were able to study and learn many other things, but only on the basis of knowing how to walk and speak, which you learned because of the kindness of your mother. So in the preceding step, you realize that all sentient beings have been your mother, and with this meditation, the kindness, you realize that not only has your mother of this present life been incredibly kind to you, but all the countless sentient beings have been just as kind. Also, as Lama Zopa pointed out, did last week, Mother, in being kind and protecting us and all that, the mother created a lot of negative karma in order to protect her child. Mothers create the cause of their future suffering, so that's kind of another kindness, really, even if they don't realize it. So then the third one is repaying the kindness. The next step is generating the wish to repay the kindness of all mother sentient beings. Ask yourself, am I able to repay their kindness? Then think, I should be able to repay their kindness because I'm in such fortunate circumstances. I've met the Dharma, I've met perfect teachers, I've met the path, and I have all the right circumstances to practice. I've received perfect human rebirth, we call. Therefore, I must do as much as I possibly can to liberate them from their suffering and bring them the happiness that they wish for. I must do this in order to repay their kindness. Of course, repaying the kindness of sentient beings also includes helping them on a conventional level by doing as much as you can to give food to those who are hungry, drink to those who are thirsty, clothing and other material things. But the most important way of helping is by completely relieving all sentient beings of all their suffering and giving them all the happiness they wish for. You should bring this thought to your mind again and again. So, I said before at the beginning, when we're doing motivation, you know, the purpose of my life is to free all sentient beings from suffering and lead them to enlightenment. So the way Lama Zopa Rinpoche explains the reason for thinking like that is that, you know, everybody wants happiness and doesn't want suffering. If that doesn't sound like you, if you want suffering and don't want happiness, then of course, don't need to be here. So this is a place that teaches how to find happiness and avoid suffering. So receiving the happiness that we want is the result of having created positive karma. So where does that creating positive karma come from? It comes from the Dharma. It comes from the Dharma teachings that explain about karma and what's positive karma, what's negative karma, what should be practiced, what should be avoided. So we want happiness, we've got to create good karma and avoid creating negative karma. So where does the Dharma come from? The Dharma comes from the Buddha. Where does the Buddha come from? The Buddha comes from Bodhisattva. So, you know, bodhisattvas pass through the 10 levels and become enlightened, become Buddha, give Dharma teachings, show sentient beings how to be happy. So where does the bodhisattva come from? Bodhisattva comes from bodhicitta. And where does bodhicitta come from? It comes from great compassion. So what is great compassion? Great compassion is compassion on steroids. Great compassion is compassion for each and every sentient being without exception. If you have compassion, which is wanting others to be free from suffering, if you have compassion for all sentient beings except that one, sorry Mitch, Republicans here, if you leave even one sentient being, you know, a mosquito or a snake or cockroach, any sentient being left out, that's not great compassion. So if you don't have great compassion, you can't develop bodhicitta. So great compassion is generated with respect to all sentient beings without exception. So that's how all sentient beings without exception are responsible for the happiness we experience. From great compassion comes, you know, bodhicitta. Bodhicitta, bodhisattva, Buddha. Buddha gives Dharma teachings, teaches how to practice and create the cause for happiness and avoiding suffering. So that's the kindness of all sentient beings that we have to repay.
The obvious question that often comes up when I see like the Dalai Lama that we interviewed, the Dalai Lama, and I always ask about this question. The equivalent of Mishpakama, whoever, is China, right? And
Oh.
of course, it's not all of the Chinese people, but the leaders in China who are using such atrocious ways towards Tibet. So he's often asked about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how is it, does he have great compassion for the leaders in China who are
Well, he also tells the story of there was a monk who was in Chinese prison for a long time, and he eventually got out and escaped from Tibet and met His Holiness in Dharamsala. And he said, "Well, what was your experience of being in prison, being tortured and stuff?" He said, "Oh, it was the most dangerous time of my life." And he said, "Oh, the torture was so bad," or something like that. He said, No, I don't mean that. I mean, I was really in danger of losing my compassion for the Chinese. But somehow he managed to not. So that's a real practitioner, you know. That was what he thought was the danger of losing his compassion, even while they were torturing him. So, and it's like that example we mentioned last time, or whenever it was, with the stick, where we did the equanimity maybe a couple of weeks ago, is when someone's hitting you with a stick, you don't blame the stick, you blame the person. So when someone is abusing you, actually the person is like a stick, is like an instrument of their anger. So it's their delusions that are the real enemy, you know, not the person. Isn't there an expression? I don't know, hate the crime, not the criminal, or what's the expression? Something like that. Yeah, hate the sin, not the sinner. I don't know if it's quite equivalent, but so the real enemy, the ultimate enemy, is ignorance, not understanding reality, and then being under control. From ignorance comes, attachment and aversion. There's three poisonous minds, and the sentient beings just under the control of these. They can't help themselves. So it's, keeping that in mind, and then doing this meditation, remembering that this person may be in this, narrow moment, may be inflicting harm on me. But since beginningless time, this person's been my mother countless times and taken care of me and been my closest. Try and focus on that. I mean, equally, you could say, well, this person has harmed me in this way as many times as they've been mother, which would also be true. But because we're trying to develop positive states of mind, we don't dwell on the negative. We focus more on the positive and gradually make it stronger and stronger, I just saw, did you see that they're rounding up all the nomads? And nomads have lived hundreds, thousands of years in these vast plains, looking after the yaks and living in tents and moving according to the weather, and go higher in the summer and lower in the winter and all that, And now they've built these concrete villages thousands of miles from where the nomads live, round them all up into buses. They're saying it's a delightful socialist paradise in these concrete blocks. They're going to be totally dependent on the state. There's no work. They leave their animals behind. You can see the pictures. They're being herded onto this huge long line of buses. They're being bussed out of I don't know what the Chinese are going to do with these areas. They're going to mine them, or what do they do with the animals? I've got no idea. But then you've got to think, well, what kind of karma have these Tibetans created to have to suffer like this? It's not coming out of nowhere. And it's like, the Chinese that are doing this also have no choice. It's like a magnetic attraction that these Tibetan people have created such negative karma, and the Chinese people are just an instrument for the fulfillment of their negative karma. It's kind of this interdependent situation, and then, at another time, the situation will be reversed. That the people who are being bussed and suffering like this and being driven off their land and everything, because they did it to the people who are doing it to them now in a previous life, and in future time it'll happen again. This is the nature of cyclic existence. So, we see all these negative people and these negative things happening right now, and we think it's so real, you know, and this is how it is, and it's kind of happening almost in a vacuum, you know. But if we're able to step back and look at the situation with the perspective of beginningless and endless time, there's just this continual cycling of happiness and suffering and happiness and suffering, and it's all being driven by the hub you see in the wheel of life out there. There's this pig, the snake and the chicken, the ignorance, attachment and aversion just driving the whole thing, you know. So that's why we want to get out altogether, the pink one. But just getting ourselves out doesn't fulfill our responsibility as sentient beings, so that's why we do the blue one, that reach enlightenment for the sake of sentient beings. No point just liberating myself, it doesn't really help anybody else much. Yeah.
So now he recognizes that he was able to keep that compassion towards you. Does that mean that in another life that he won't do the same thing now because he's now?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, as you purify your karma, as you know, instead of being angry and hating them and trying to retaliate or going back to his cell and stewing over it, he maybe purified that. I mean, there was his karma they had to do that to him, but by responding in a positive way, he put an end to the chain. You can put an end to that cycle, that chain, by responding positively, by responding with compassion and bodhicitta, and not perpetuating the hatred and the anger. So, you know, gradually we can rise out of cyclic existence and all this incredible turmoil that we see going on around us all the time. I mean, I don't know that monk personally or anything, but in general, that's the way that, anger is one of the worst negative minds, and patience is one of the most positive. And that's why, Shantideva has the 6th chapter in the Bodhicharyavatara. Geshe-la's taught that, So then just to go on with these other ones. So the 4th cause is meditating on love comes force of attraction. Affectionate love, it's called here. The next step, affectionate love, is the kind of love that a mother feels when looking at her only child. When a mother looks at her child, he appears to her in a very beautiful way, and she feels great love for him, or her. I still can't say them when I mean one. Here you generate this same kind of affectionate love towards all sentient beings, perceiving all beings in a beautiful, glowing way. Actually, if you generated the previous steps of recognizing all sentient beings as your mother, recognizing their kindness and wishing to repay their kindness, then you won't need extra effort or extra thought in order to develop affectionate love. It will arise spontaneously due to the force of the preceding realizations. So, like it says, you understand all sentient beings your mother, remember their kindness, think about repaying their kindness, automatically you'll feel this strong love. Not just for one, but for all. When you meditate on affectionate love, you also need to reflect on the fact that all sentient beings, although wishing to be happy, are completely devoid of happiness, especially pure, uncontaminated happiness. By meditating in this way, you generate the strong wish that all sentient beings possess happiness and its causes, and that they actually abide in happiness. The strong wish that they actually abide in happiness. On top of that, you should also generate the wish that you yourself will make that happen. From the depths of your heart, request your Lama to grant you blessings to be able to do this. So if you're familiar with the extensive four immeasurables, you know, we say, may all sentient beings happy, may all free of suffering. The extensive one says, may they be happy, I myself will make it, you know, I myself will make all sentient beings happy, and then you request the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and your teacher to give you the strength and the ability to actually bring that about. So there's 4 lines for each immeasurable like that. The thing about Dharma practice and ordinary happiness is that the regular happiness that we seek it's not that great. We have to create the cause. We have to kind of work for it, you know. Then we experience that happiness, whatever it is. It's not that great, and then it finishes. Then we have to do the work again. So in our regular way of existing, way of behaving, the work never finishes, but the happiness always does. With the Dharma happiness, it's the other way around. That you do the work, you experience the happiness. You do some more work, you experience greater happiness. And eventually, you reach a point where the work finishes, but the happiness lasts forever. So it's completely opposite. So it's really worth putting effort into Dharma practice, where you can actually retire and just coast on the happiness forever, instead of this other one and the happiness is unbelievable, they tell me. You know, did we look at the Shini chart? Did we look at that recently? You know the Shini chart? The elephant and the monkey, and you know, gradually overcoming sluggishness and scattering and developing single point of concentration through the 9 levels of concentration, or single point of concentration, shamatha. And then towards the end, there's the monk flying free, you know, in the air. So Lama Zopa, so that's the result of just single pointed concentration. That's not, in the scheme of things, a particularly high realization, although it's probably one we can only dream about, because we're not doing the work to achieve it. But Lama Zopa says that's called rapturous ecstasy. I mean, think of rapturous ecstasy. Ecstasy's good. Rapture's great. Rapturous ecstasy. And that can also be achieved, it's not just Buddhism. I think in Hinduism the yogis can achieve that, you know. But we do it not to experience rapturous ecstasy as the point. Rapturous ecstasy is, you know, our little reward for having done that little bit of work. But it's really single point of concentration then becomes like that really sharp knife to cut through the what Lama Yeshe called the heavy blanket of ignorance, of delusion, you know. So, and to see reality, that's the point of having single point of concentration. So, you know, probably most of us would settle for rapturous ecstasy at this point, but don't get caught up in the rapture. I can't remember what I was talking about that. Okay, so that's the great love. Then the 5th cause of leading to bodhicitta is great compassion. The next step is great compassion. This is one of the special characteristics of the Buddha's teachings, and Lama Tsongkhapa in particular placed a great deal of emphasis on it as a very special cause that gives rise to very special effects. Also, the great Chandrakirti, in the introduction to his Entering the Middle Way, pays homage to great compassion, saying that it's extremely important at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. At the beginning, it's the seed that enables you to enter the Mahayana path. At the middle, while you're engaging in the Bodhisattva's practice of the 6 perfections, it's the very soul of your practice. And at the end, it causes the result, Buddhahood, to ripen, and it makes possible all the Buddha's wonderful deeds for the benefit of sentient beings. Therefore, great compassion is praised as being extremely important at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of the path. It's said that in the beginning, in order to develop great compassion, it's very beneficial to observe and reflect on the way a butcher slaughters an animal, cutting its throat, ripping out its insides, pulling off its skin. Using that as an example is an easy and powerful way to meditate on great compassion. And this teaching was given in Singapore. Here in Singapore, there's a market where we go to buy animals to liberate. There's one monk in Singapore, Venerable Drachom, who was actually a major. We finished up a major. He was in the Singapore Army, like in the Special Forces or whatever they call it, for like 20 years. And then his wife died suddenly. She had a cerebral hemorrhage. Quite young, at the age of 40 or something. And then he became a monk. Over this 20 or 25 years, he's liberated something like, or he, through the centre in Singapore, 200 million animals. So that's not just liberating them. If you've done animal liberation here, according to Lama Zopa's way, it's important to free them from being killed, but more important to give them Dharma imprints. So we sprinkle them with blessed water, and we circumambulate them around hundreds, thousands of holy objects, and recite mantras and prayers, and then liberate them. So even if they died soon after being liberated, at least they had that Dharma imprint. Maybe you can draw them to the Dharma and gradually bring them closer to enlightenment. Here in Singapore, there's a market where we go to buy animals to liberate. It would be extremely beneficial to go there and observe the situation, reflecting both on the animals which are being slaughtered and on those who are slaughtering them. And you don't have to go to Singapore, you can just go to YouTube. And it's kind of why I finished up becoming vegan 16 years ago. By, you eat meat and you kind of vaguely know sort of something happened, but you don't really think about it too much because you're really attached to eating meat or cheese or ice cream or whatever, dairy. And it was pretty easy to ignore the genesis of that food. Now, it's a little harder to ignore it when you go to YouTube and watch, animals that are being raised, how they're treated, especially in factory farms, but even on so-called, humane farms. There's no humane farm. They're all killed. They don't want to be killed. And the people who kill them create incredible negative karma. So suffering on both sides, and it just keeps going round and round. So the first step is not maybe becoming vegetarian, but that's not enough, because there's probably more cruelty in the dairy industry than in the meat industry. Just people get very upset, they're eating dogs in South Korea, or they're eating cats in China, cat, dog, pig, sheep, chicken. I mean, what's the difference? Pigs are supposed to be smarter than dogs. And anyway, so once you've started to generate great compassion, then you reflect on the same meditations that you used while training your mind in the small scope section of the Lam Rim, by thinking in detail about the sufferings of 3 lower realms, the hells and so forth. So, you know, again, as I mentioned before, when we meditate on the lower realms, it's not like you seeing those beings there suffering, you know, I'm up here and they're down there in the hells. You actually visualize yourself as being one of those beings. Because we've been there countless times since the beginning of time. In each of the different, you know, the 20 different kinds of hells there are, 8 hot hells, 8 cold hells, 4 neighbouring hells. Visualize being there, experiencing that, because it's really trying to refresh our memory. It's not like it's to develop renunciation, to develop an aversion to all of cyclic existence, of samsara, to develop renunciation and the strong desire to get out, but also it helps us develop compassion for those beings who are experiencing those sufferings right now. Thinking in detail about sufferings of lower realms. However, this time you generate compassion by thinking of the sufferings of the specific sentient beings, the suffering of extreme heat and extreme cold of the hell beings, the sufferings of extreme hunger and thirst of the pretas, hungry ghosts, and the suffering of the animals. What is the measure of, or sign of having generated great compassion in your mind? It's that you feel towards all sentient beings the same wish for them to be free of suffering that a mother would feel for her only child. When a mother sees her child going through intense suffering, she feels an unbearable wish for the child to be completely free from this suffering. Even more than that, you know, she wishes that she could take the child's place and the child could be free. She is willing to bear that, you know. Feeling this same strong wish towards each and every sentient being is a sign that you've generated great compassion. So that probably takes a while too. The next step, the 6th one, it's called altruism. That's a little weak, I think. Here it's called the extraordinary intention. The next step is the extraordinary intention. This is when you have the feeling that you yourself alone have the responsibility of eliminating all the sufferings of all sentient beings and bringing to them all the happiness that they wish for. So taking personal responsibility for the freedom and happiness of each and every sentient being. It's the same sense of responsibility that a child would feel towards his or her mother, feeling responsible to make her happy and free from suffering. So when you feel that way towards all sentient beings and feel that you yourself alone will achieve this goal, then you have generated the extraordinary intention. It's extraordinary because it's more exceptional or supreme than the intention of the hearers or solitary realizers. So these are the 2 kinds of arhat, the 2 kinds of practitioners of the Hinayana, or the lesser vehicle. You know, the pink people, the ones who practice Dharma to escape from cyclic existence for themselves alone. Too hard to worry about others. Those who practice the individual vehicle. So some people call the Hinayana the lesser vehicle, the Mahayana the great vehicle, call it the individual vehicle and the universal vehicle. That's kind of the politically correct. The extraordinary intention is Geshe Tenley, who's one of the early teachers of Westerners in the Tibetan library in Dharamsala. It's a noisy little bugger. He explained 6 reasons why the great vehicle is great and the lesser vehicle is lesser. look them up. I can remember a couple. Well, the result is great. It's enlightenment, not individual liberation. The intention is great, to free all sentient beings instead of one individual. The practices are great. And there's 3 more. The extraordinary intention is similar to being in the position of saving someone from falling off a cliff, where you feel responsible to save the person. In the same way, when you feel a deep sense of responsibility for eliminating the suffering of all sentient beings and for giving them all the happiness they wish for, that is the extraordinary intention. It can also be called the exceptional attitude or universal responsibility. Okay, so that's all we've got time for today. So we'll try and finish 7-point cause and effect next time. And then the next one is this one, training the mind through the interchange of self and others. So we'll probably start that next week too. Okay, thank you. So if you can read this online, How to Generate Bodhicitta, it's really a wonderful teaching, So there are these 7-point cause and effect, and then there's then there's 4 main. This is a little different, shown differently here. They're exchanging self for other. There are like 4 main things, and then there's a meditation that Atisha put together, 11 steps of developing bodhicitta, which combines them. So that's Rinpoche talks about that here too. I don't know if we'll get that far. Okay, so we generated bodhicitta at the beginning. We've been discussing these amazing teachings on bodhicitta, the cause of enlightenment. So we've created a lot of merit, cause of happiness, success. So in order for that not to be destroyed by anger or wrong views, as usual, we dedicate the merit. So we'll do the prayers briefly, but just think that we are really consolidating our intention to study these teachings for the sake of sentient beings by dedicating the merit to that end, to the enlightenment of all sentient beings. Not keeping it for our own happiness, but we're offering it to others to bring them to enlightenment. Maestro?
Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha's state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Page 43, the short long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chen Rezig remain in life till samsara's you who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Majjhina's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. Page 75, Ming Sema. Mig mei tse wei ter chen chen rezik dri mei kien pei wang po jam tel yang gang chen ke pei su gen song ka pa lo san